This video is probably going to be a little bit difficult, and it might get sort of slowed down by YouTube because of subject matter. About a week ago, my brother lost one of his friends. From what I know of this person, he was late 30s, 2 kids, going through a divorce. I don't know anything else. What I do know is he's no longer here. My sort of last girlfriend tried to remove herself through various different ways because of childhood trauma. Luckily, she has not been successful. And it's not through lack of trying, by the sounds of it, on a very, very regular occurrence. I had an old school friend who once told me, after a night out, he was talking to me, and he told me about a girl he dated that none of us knew about. She's not here either. And I'll be honest, because that's what I'm here for. I'm kind of lucky to be here too. Because when things were really bad for me, I had a moment as well. It's something that too many people come to the conclusion that it's probably the best thing, but it's not. And I know it's easy to sit here and say that. You know, when you're at the bottom, when you feel like you've lost everything. Take my brother's friend, when he felt like he's lost his kids, he's lost his wife, his whole world's fallen apart. He saw no other way. Now, one thing I do know about that group of friends is they also have a guy who's very old school. Men don't talk about feelings, men get on with it. And I know that it's been an issue before with a couple of people in that group where they've been going through something and they've had that guy say things like that to them. I don't know why there's this stigma that men are just supposed to put up and shut up. There's a lot that happens. And when you're in that kind of headspace, it's a dark, dark place, and it can take something really small to get you out, or it can take something really big to get you out. It's an option I wish as humans we didn't know existed. I wish it was something that we hadn't got the motor skills or the brain power to understand it's something that we're capable of. And everybody's circumstances are different. And everybody always feels that they're at the bottom sometimes. And they deal with that in a way that I suppose they only know how. And that is when you don't see any way up. You feel like the only option left is out. I got lucky because mine was more of a near miss. That was enough for me to have a wake-up call. I can't explain it, but for me it was that moment that I sort of came back to reality, and I was able to sit there and go, what are you doing? What are you doing? The hardest thing to understand is that there is a way out, and this feeling isn't always the one that's going to be there, and it's not always the one that's going to last. And it's the hardest thing to feel, because when your entire world is falling apart. It's the only thing you feel. You don't see a way out. You think that this is going to be it. This is what's happening. And it gets to a point where you feel like you can't fight anymore. And you feel like, what's the point? Things aren't getting any better. Why keep carrying on? If you feel like your entire world is falling apart around you, what's left? For me, when I had my wake-up call, it gave me that kick to really sit down and go, what are you doing? What are you doing? And almost it like kicked a rational thought process in my mind, because I think at that moment when you're low, you almost only think on emotion, and because you're man, you're not allowed to speak about emotions, you're not taught how to process emotions, you don't know how to process emotions, and it overwhelms you. I was lucky that I had the opportunity to see myself from almost a third perspective. It made me ask questions of, why does it hurt? How can I make it stop? What can I do about it? And it makes you hopefully take a look at yourself a little bit more. Because the way that I saw it, the way that it worked for me is, as long as I could still be, as long as I'm still here, tomorrow I have a chance. Now, for many people that seems like it's so far gone, but it's something that I just really wish to stress. If your circumstances are so dire that you're in the bottom of the bottom and you feel like escape is the only option, it's not. It's a bit rich for me to sit here with the comforts that I have and sort of say that it's not. Because if you have so much against you, you'll feel like you've got no option. What worked for me is realizing that every day that I'm here, I can make my situation better. I can work towards bettering my situation. This feeling doesn't have to last. For me, what I did, I started to go to the gym because I needed to feel the pain. I was hurting. It's really hard to explain, but I was hurting emotionally. I was hurting mentally. And the only way that I could really deal with that was to change that pain to a physical pain. So instead of doing something ridiculously drastic, I started running and I started really hitting the gym. And I would run to the gym and I would hammer the weights and I would run home. And at the end of the day, at the end of that, my body would be screaming at me. And the pain lets you know that you're still alive. And that's the important thing. The pain lets you know you're still here. And when you can harness that power, because it is a phenomenal power of realizing that you're alive, you start to feel that you can actually manipulate, change, alter your mindset, your circumstances, whatever it is that's causing you this hell that you're going through. Now, it won't happen overnight. It won't happen in a week. It might take literal months. It might take longer still. It just depends on what the situations are. But I promise you, if you can find something positive to do every day, you will make your own situation better. That feeling that is dragging you down will slowly start to fade. It will not be as strong. It will not be as heavy as it was. The girl that I told you about earlier, who has tried to take herself so many times, I managed to talk to her and get to the root of the issue. And thankfully, because of that, we were able to get her to therapy. and that has hopefully put her on a better track. A lot of medical conditions arose, but it was because we got her the help that she needed. Not everybody is that way inclined. Not everybody wants to seek help. Not everybody feels that it's something that they should do or even could do because, you know, their problems they have to deal with them on their own. It doesn't matter if they're male or female, but it is more men because we're just taught just to put up and shut up and get on with it. I appreciate and understand that women also go through the same thing. It's just so hard to stress that when you feel so down, you're not thinking rationally because you only ever see darkness. And as long as you always see darkness, you'll never see anything that's clear. You'll never look at anything with clarity, and you'll always see one option seems to be the best choice than all the other options available. But it's because your judgment is clouded massively, because that's never the right option. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard. It doesn't mean that it'll be a walk in the park. It doesn't mean that it'll be the easiest thing that you ever do. But would you rather be wanting to be known as the person you are up to that point? Or would you rather be known for the person that you have potential to become? Because for me, I didn't want to be known as that person that I was up to that point, and that'd be the last thing that people remember of me. It's not a good way to die out. Like, don't get me wrong, this was like 15 years ago. And yeah, last year I put that video up of being 35 and being how I am. And that might be how I feel. But what I do know for sure is the darkness is not an option. And that is something that I am really cemented in. But it took something very nearly wrong to get me to that. And it wasn't an experience that I would want anybody to go through, because not everybody gets a near miss. Many people don't get a second chance. But if people knew what their power is, if people knew what your abilities are, best believe you wouldn't take that option. If somebody told you that you could love again, guarantee that you're not going to let that current emotion drag you down. If somebody told you that you have the power and the ability to get out of the situation you're in, best believe you're not going to listen to them, because your emotions are that intense that you don't see it. But as long as you are here, you have as much chance as anybody else. And as everybody's been telling me on that other video, there is so many free resources now to help ourselves, better ourselves, find help for various different things, find information for various different things. It's too easy to feel alone when you're clouded in darkness. I've been around too many people who have lost somebody or tried to go themselves to that means. It's not a great way. I don't care what anybody says, it's not a great way. It solves absolutely nothing. And I know a lot of people will say, well, but nobody cares about me. You're supposed to care about yourself first and foremost. That's what I learned. You think nobody cares about you, like, you know, no friends, no family, whatever else, who's going to be at my whatever. And you can turn that over in your head until you always come back to the same conclusion, right? No one will miss me. But you don't give yourself the option. You don't know who you might impact. You don't know how much a smile might make to a random stranger's day. Like, we underestimate ourselves as people as what potentially we can do for others. And we might not ever see that ripple of that impact of what it is. But I would rather go through hell and high water to find out what I could be or should be, rather than stop my clock earlier and accept that that mess I was who I was. If you are going through a rough time where your judgment is clouded, but you think that it's clear and you see that that is your only option, please seek some sort of help. It's not shameful. I don't care what anybody on the internet trolls say. I don't really give a monkeys. I really don't. It's not shameful to seek help. It doesn't make you any less of a man. In my opinion, it makes you a lot stronger because you've acknowledged that shit has got real and you cannot cope. And what happens when you can't do something? You find somebody who can help you. It's why we have different employments. It's why there's different jobs across the world. Because imagine you woke up and, I don't know, you're in a house or something, for example, where something breaks and you don't know how to repair it. What are you going to do? Just leave the entire house because you can't fix it? No, you find somebody who's trained to fix whatever the problem is. So why don't we do the same thing with our mental state? We put too much belief that we are in control of our total mind and that any problems that arise we should be able to deal with. And that is absolute horseshit. We don't have the tools. Every average person doesn't have the knowledge or the power or the tools to understand how to deal with all that stuff. You never know what you might become. Most people would rather run from that than run to it. Those two kids lost a father. What's that like for them? They're young as well. I think by the sounds of it, the eldest is like 4. Every mother loses a son. Every father loses a son. Every child loses a parent. I've spent a lot of time, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, talking people out of doing dumb stuff. As shit as it seems, life is worth living. Even when it feels like the whole deck is stacked against you. That's when the fun starts. When you feel that you can't get any lower. That's when life is living. That's when you smile. It's when you laugh. It's when you realise how stupid things can be. Instead of letting it all eat you up, you play it. You find your way and you play it. For me, like I say, it was the gym. I had to feel. Gym, rugby. Perfect combination for me. The physical brutality of that switched my mind off. Not everybody has that luxury. I understand and appreciate that. And life is chaotic, depending on circumstances, and everybody's circumstances are different. But I promise you, the other side is a lot shitter than you think it is. It's not the escape that you think. The escape that you want is proven to yourself. This too shall pass. Because it does. You just gotta fight it. I believe in everybody. I do. But if you are going through hell and high water, phone some numbers. Professionals. Take some routes through. If you're in the UK, I know you can go through your GP to get some sort of counselling, some help that way. Seek professional help. And most importantly, don't act on impulse, because that's when stupid stuff happens, and that's when it's usually game over and you can't back out. I was given a second chance. And maybe it's because it means that I can talk to you. Trust in yourself and believe in your abilities. And fight it.